This is for the woman who kept choosing peace over truth. The woman who can feel herself changing, but doesn't know how to let go of who she used to be. I'm your host, Queen, and this is Vital Information. Welcome back, you guys. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who listened to the first episode of Vital Information. I appreciate everyone's support and your kindness and your love and your feedback. And hopefully you'll stick around a little longer to see this grow. So today I want to talk about insecurities. And we talked about trauma, on a external level. And we rarely talk about how we traumatize ourselves, or how we perpetuate trauma in our own lives, and how we can become unsafe in our own bodies and in our own minds because of the ideas and the self-talk and the negativity that we continue to give ourselves. So I want to talk about my fitness journey very briefly because I feel like it can go very deep for me just because I am a fitness professional, but it didn't start that way, okay? I would say fitness probably started at the age of 5 years old when I started doing karate. And the karate school that I went to was very much a community-based dojo. From going to karate and doing classes throughout the week, on the weekends, to getting picked up from school, and then going to karate, to progressing from a white belt to a brown belt. My brother is actually a black belt. And when I was 5 years old, I went to my first tournament. I won first place in both categories. And the first was fighting. The second was kata. If you don't know what that is, it's almost like the dance portion of karate, if you will. But I won this big ass trophy, y'all, like to the point where they were saying like the trophy was taller than me. And it was big, it was tall. And it made me feel good about myself because I'm like, I just start this and I'm already winning. But karate is not something that is like easy. It's not a simple sport. It's not one of those things where you could just kind of go in and get a, A for effort, or at least not at this time it wasn't. There was a lot of work put in, and I remember putting in work. I remember being consistent and going to karate 3 to 5 days a week. And at first it wasn't a choice, but it started this streak of discipline, which is very important in combat, in fitness, in any type of sport, but especially in a combative sport, because it necessary to stay disciplined in your practice, but also stay disciplined in the moment that you need to apply that practice. So long story short, that's where my fitness journey began, just as a very young child. And for me, that transitioned into karate, then it was dance, then it was cheer, then it was back to dance, then it was back to cheer. But after high school, I went to college, and I wasn't in a sport anymore. I didn't go to college for cheer. I didn't go to college for dance. I started to notice my discipline kind of falling off. There was not as much consistency outside of academics that kept me in the practice of training discipline. Now, discipline is also a skill, and it's a skill that can be applied across the board in almost everything that you do in life, but it is a skill very similar to consistency. And these are two things that go hand in hand when we talk about becoming a great athlete or becoming a master at a craft. When you're in an environment that doesn't really train your discipline as much, it kind of throws off your balance. You have to find something to retrain your discipline. And for me, I was like, okay, well, I have to do something. I have to join some type of organization. So I joined like the modeling team. Shout out to FAM at Morgan State University. It was something that kept me, consistent, But I started to notice that my body was changing. And I think that's where a lot of people start their fitness journey, with some health concerns, okay? Whether they are directly from your doctor or your provider, or you just look in the mirror one day and you're like, I'm concerned. And for me, I was the latter. And it showed up in so many different ways for me. I remember one of the first things I noticed was I started to get sick every time I was eating meat. I would eat like chicken and, beef and cheese. Girl, I was eating all the things and my stomach would start to hurt. And I was like, I don't know why this is happening to me. I don't know why I've been eating these things all my life. Maybe it was a change in environment. Maybe it's just, the person cooking it was different. I was eating out a lot more. And that's when I first went pescatarian, and I was eating fish, but I was not eating chicken or beef or anything beyond fish. But that also included like dairy and cheese. Girl, I was still eating pizza and all the things. So for a long time, I knew that I was lactose intolerant, and I just ignored it because I liked pizza and I liked pasta and I liked cheese on damn near everything. But I guess I was just at a point where I was getting a little more mature, and I'm like, I don't have to eat everything. These don't always have to be my options when it comes to food. And I started on this pescatarian diet, and I'm calling it a diet now because at the time it was very short term. Like I was pescatarian probably for about a year. And I would say within like the first 3 to 4 months, I lost a significant amount of weight. I think I was like 15 pounds lighter. It was very evident that I was doing something different because I just did not look how I was looking before. Then 2020 came, and I started to notice I was getting a little thicker, and not in a healthy way, because I don't know what y'all were doing in 2020, but I was definitely in the house cooking and eating. And there was less movement going on for me in 2020 as well. I was working remotely. I was, ordering food. So it was just cook and eat, cook and eat. And those habits started to reflect in the mirror. And I started to look at myself, and I'm like, oh, that 15 pounds, it's back, and it brought friends. This is not what I thought was going to happen. I'm pescatarian. I'm not even eating meat. Where is all this coming from? And I'd never been like super insecure about my weight. But when you see significant changes in your appearance, some alarms start to go off. Okay. And at the time, it wasn't clocking to me that it was the dairy that had a huge effect on my weight, on inflammation in my face. And so again, I'm like, okay, pescatarian, let's go vegetarian. Still eating like pizza and eggs and, whipped cream on my French toast and stuff like that. And then I'm like, I think I can go a little further. And I went no dairy, no meat, no animal products at all whatsoever. And y'all, I was a vegan for 5 years. And that was one of the most life-changing experiences up until this point in my life. I truly, truly, truly enjoyed being a vegan, and it brought out a level of creativity in the kitchen that I hadn't seen in myself before. It became something to share with friends and family. It became a talking point for people that were interested in changing up their diets and trying to figure out like what is there to do. People get bored of eating the same foods over and over again, especially in the same ways. And I was so happy to be able to share different recipes with people for simple things. I was running my vegan business. I had all these recipes, plates I was selling. I had so much support from my friends and family and people who were just interested in trying vegan food. So it was amazing. I'm following vegan creators online, and it led me to the fitness world. And I'm like, oh, I don't even work out, girl. People ask me if I work out. I'm just skinny because I don't eat meat. I'm hungry. I'm like, okay, I gotta keep this momentum going. We're vegan. We've gotten to a point where we can sustain ourselves, queen, and, we're not craving meats or people always ask me if I craved meat when I was a vegan. And no, I don't think I craved meat. I definitely craved flavors that only meats can produce. Sidebar. But like that flavor of like Old Bay and like seafood seasoning, like I loved that. So I would add that to some dishes. The flavor of like, oh my gosh, buffalo wings, hot wings, that was like something that I loved when I was eating chicken, hot wings and blue cheese. But I was able to find like vegan chicken nuggets with like hot sauce on it, and there's vegan blue cheese. So if you guys aren't vegan or you aren't plant-based, there are some really great plant-based alternatives, especially for a lot of sauces that we see. And if you guys aren't into the whole soy or tempeh, or you don't like plant-based meats, try something else that mimics that flavor. Shameless plug, I will always stand plant-based foods, plant-based products. Anyway, yeah, I got to the point where I wanted to build on my physique, on my discipline, and nutrition was a really great starting point for me because I was able to be disciplined, I was able to be consistent. The first thing I tried when it came to working out was definitely going to the gym. My apartment had a gym, but I did not know what I was doing in the gym. I did not want to lift weights. I did not know what the machines did. I didn't want to get on the treadmill. When I went to the gym, literally my goal was to get a split. I'm like, I just want to be able to do a split. I'm laughing at myself because that's such a childish goal. Like, girl, you're going to the gym trying to get a split. And was. And I was in the gym looking crazy. The gym in my apartment building had ballet bars, and I would like stretch and put my leg on the ballet bar and try to get a split. And I'm thinking about this right now, and I'm like, people are probably looking at me like I was crazy. I was genuinely trying to find the simplest way to build consistency in the gym. And I'm like, I know how to stretch. I will stretch, stretch, stretch. And I just decided, okay, I always wanted to have a split and get let's see what happens. And yeah, I would go to the gym, I would stretch, listen to music, and it just gave me the opportunity to have time for myself, with myself. Oh my gosh, at this time I was going through a lot. I had actually like cut off all my hair. So I was getting comfortable with myself all over again. So looking at myself in the mirror, constantly stretching my body, seeing what my body was capable of, figuring out what I wanted to look like when it came to confidence. And I mean that in the simplest way, as far as like, okay, what am I most comfortable in going to the gym? What am I most comfortable doing while I'm here? How long am I going to stay here? And each time I would go, I would stay there a little longer. I would try something different. I would kind of watch and see what other people were doing and see if it was fun. I just wanted it to be fun. And then I got to the point where I was consistent. I'm like, I want to try something else. So I asked my friends if they wanted to try out a Pilates class with me. And when I walked into that Pilates studio for the first time, when I tell you the intro class to Pilates is maybe 20 minutes. But that 20 minutes was I saw 20 years in front of me after finishing that class, because the instructor, first of all, shout out to Vonnie Love at Club Pilates. She was and is such an amazing instructor, and her vibe, her essence, her direction, her patience just made me feel comfortable. Because I was in there like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do everything right because it just feels like I'm supposed to be here. And I was, because that turned into another avenue for me. I started going to Pilates more consistently, and it kind of took off from there. Like I said, I cut off all my hair at this time, and I've always had like a low cut, but looking back, it was one of the ways that confusion was showing up in my body and wanting to take control over my life. And it showed up in a very external way for me. When I cut my hair, I was just trying to redirect my own growth, redirect the growth that I wanted to see in myself. I wanted to feel good about myself. And it was almost like I forced myself to feel that way. And this was not a low cut. This was like lower than low. Like I was bald. And I remember people around me were like, "Are you okay?" No, I was not okay. Like I really thought I was though. Don't get me wrong. I thought I was okay because I'm like, no, like I don't really care like who's going to say what. I just know that this feels good for me right now. And as I started to see my hair grow back, things in my life also started to grow with me. And I was able to mark certain points in my life based on how I was perceiving myself and how I was showing up for myself. And things like staying disciplined in my nutrition, showing up to Pilates, being consistent, learning more, investing in myself were all ways that I was growing. And they were ways that I chose to show up and attack the growth head on. This was a very weird time for me as well because even now, fitness has become a litmus test for where I am on my growth journey. So, like I said, I've been vegan for 5 years. Just recently, May of 2025, I started eating fish again. And I did that out of the change that I started to notice in my body. I started lifting heavier weights, which meant that my body was craving more protein, more support. I started hitting new PRs as I'm lifting these heavy weights. I started doing different exercises and a lot more strength training, and it required a different level of nutrition for my body. And I remember when I ate fish and I was at a conference in LA and I've been training before I went to this conference. And I remember hitting a new PR for like legs, probably like a week or two before going to this conference. And I was prepping my body because I was teaching Pilates at this conference, just wanting to be in the best shape as possible. And it was a long flight from Florida to LAX, not a lot of downtime on a 4-day conference, and then eating conference food, which is very minimal. And I remember going to like this banquet with one of my colleagues, and I was just so hungry. They did have vegan options, but I was hungry and I'm like, I'm not just gonna eat quinoa all night, bro. I am not just gonna eat, pasta salad all night. I mean, it's not even healthy to eat just a whole bunch of carbs, right? Like, and I turned to my friend and I'm like, Ashley, I think I'm gonna try the fish. She's like, girl, go ahead. And I was just like, you know what? And it took everything out of me to eat the fish. It was salmon. It was really, really good, really well made. And I felt a little shameful that night. I'm like, oh my God, did I just break my streak? Like, I've been vegan for 5 years, and now today is the day that I'm like, let me eat some fish. But something that is very important on your journey in fitness is to listen to your body, because your body will tell you what it needs through what it desires. So that craving that I had for salmon, for fish, for fatty fish, was an omega-3 deficiency. And it's okay to listen to your body. It's okay to make decisions in the moment based on what it is that you need. And so I did. I did break a 5-year streak of being plant-based. However, now I am eating within a scope that fits the body that I'm building. So today, I do not eat dairy, I do not eat meat, I do not eat cheese, I do not eat eggs, but I do include salmon, fatty fish, and some seafood, not all, but some seafood in my diet. And this has been a very beneficial shift for me, because it's not that being plant-based or being a vegan didn't work for me. It worked for the time that it did. And it got to a point where my body said, this is great, and now we need more. And this pattern shows up in the ways that we speak to ourselves, and it can show up in our levels of confidence. And our confidence levels will fluctuate often. It'll fluctuate with our environment, it'll fluctuate with the time of day. If you're a woman, it fluctuates 24/7, 365 days a year and then some. And it's rare that we offer ourselves, our minds, our bodies, our hearts grace when we're going through these types of transitions. And if you're like me, you'll shame yourself. And I shamed myself for making a decision to want to eat fish. And it was just fish, right? Something that I had focused on for so long or identified with for so long shifted. And it shifted out of wanting to feel safe in my body, wanting to feel satiated in eating. And our relationship with food, our relationship with our bodies, our relationship with our minds are things that have to be catered to. If the relationship needs more support in certain areas, we can't just expect one thing to change and for us not to change. A lot of people want to start their fitness journey with, let me just go to the gym. Let me just buy a gym membership. Let me just, go to the gym down the street and get a trainer. And that's where the change will start and that's where the change will end. And that is one of the biggest misconceptions ever when it comes to transformation and when it comes to becoming a master at discipline and consistency. Because what change does is that it doesn't only change you, it changes your habits. It changes the way you speak. It changes the way you look. It changes the way that other people speak to you. It changes the environments that you show up in, how you show up in those environments, and with what words and with what vocabulary and with what energy. That can become triggering for other people. And they will start to notice your changes. And to the right people, it will become a signal. And it will signal to other people that you are willing to invest in yourself no matter what. You are willing to show up no matter what. You are willing to engage in whatever needs to be done to activate more growth. And when you adopt that type of mindset and apply it to how you look, how you feel, how you speak to people, to your relationships with your friends, with your family, then you begin to change. And so I was going through a lot of transitions all at once. And so if you are getting in the gym for the first time, if you are starting a specific discipline for the first time, expect change everywhere. And the one thing you need to come back to is your mind and your heart and a center to where you can ground yourself. And at this time, you guys know I love quotes. I felt like I had to redefine myself because I had painted myself in so many different lights. And I just would change the light based on where I was, based on what was needed. And that just meant that I was good at adapting. It didn't mean that I was convincing. It didn't mean that people believed me. It didn't mean that I was confident in shifting so many times. But I had to find something that would ground me. One thing that Pilates gave me was knowledge about breath work and the importance of breathing. And when you're not physically working out, breathing is still important, and taking time to be still is also important. So I want to read to you guys some affirmations that I built around being confident and centering myself. And if you like, you can write these down and use them for your own meditations, or just kind of keep them in mind the next time you want to define yourself, not for other people, but for the sake of your sanity. I am capable of growing and changing. I am not stopping until I am the best that I can be. I will forgive myself when I make mistakes. I will climb mountains for the sake of growth. Comfort can hold me back, so I'm going to embrace the pain. I will give myself all the space and time I need to learn. Fear is preventing me from growing, so I let go of it. I want to give you permission right now to always do what is necessary for you to feel safe in your own body. Listen to what you need, provide it, invest in it, and don't be deterred by your own fear, by others' fear, or by the unknown, because knowledge of self is the greatest and strongest weapon against all negativity. And that's vital information.
Good day in my mind, safe to take a step out. Yes, I'm in now. Let your act out.